This is Forum in Focus with a distinguished fellow. David, Distinguished Fellow of the Forum, a great honour you've been given this week. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I was very pleased to receive this award this week. This award is given to a very few people, sort of one or two a year at maximum, and it really reflects those individuals' contributions to the Forum, both over a large number of years and also a large number of areas. So really, it's two-dimensional in both those cases. So again, I'm in some very august company. I'm very proud to have received this award.
What's some of the work that you've been involved with that's put you in consideration for this?
Well, I think there are two things. I think number one is I've been a chair of the End-to-End Architecture Group in its previous incarnations for a surprising number of years. It's actually quite worrying when you look back. And I think I've driven the work of that group forward. Again, it's very difficult subjects. Then you do have often tensions between service providers and vendors, and actually managing the way through that and driving the way forward, I think, has been one of the key things that I brought there. And that's, of course, across a range of subjects, because one of the issues with being a chair is that there are certain things where I really understand the technology, but there are some other areas where, frankly, I haven't got a clue, although hopefully most of the group don't realise that most of the time. But you've got to be able to engage and moderate discussion in areas which, at least initially, are way outside your experience. The other aspect, though, is actually outside that group, in that I've been a very active contributor to the SPAC, the Service Provider Action Council, where we actually sometimes look at more forward-looking things. We try and resolve difficult issues in the working group. And a sort of an associated thing, I can, as people know, be quite vocal in general meetings, and certainly with regard to the strategy of the Forum, I've got some very clear views. Now, one of the benefits, or one of the advantages I have, is I do work in a couple of other bodies, and so I can really bring a cross-SDO perspective to some of this and generate and help some of the linkages between bodies.
What for you have been some of the highlights, some of the milestones that you've been involved in this time with the Forum?
Well, I would pick out two, really. The first of those would be TR 101, which really moved the basic architecture of broadband access forward from the early days when it was very much ATM based, moving to much more an Ethernet focused aggregation network, and that was very important, and that was very influential in the network. More recently, well, actually very recently, been very involved in the fibre to distribution point work, which is very interesting. A lot of industry focus on that, but it's actually challenging in a whole variety of ways, because a lot of the time within the Forum we don't have to worry about the details of the equipment, because they live quite happily in air-conditioned rooms. But in that environment, when you've got external located plant and it's very, very power critical, then there are a lot of new things you have to worry about. So that's been a very interesting challenge which has recently been going on. So I think I would pick those two out as a sort of a more distant highlight and a very recent highlight.
Talking about challenges, the network is going through some massive changes at the moment. What are some of the big opportunities, let's say, for the Forum?
Yeah, I think these are certainly opportunities, but they're also challenges for both the Forum and the industry, because at the moment what we primarily do, certainly in end-to-end architecture, is define nodal functionalities. Now, by and large, these are just within the nodes themselves. Now, there are some aspects of nodes talking to nodes, and that sometimes brings in interoperability requirements. So we do that, but it's basically rather the secondary thing. And also, we tend not to get involved directly in performance. Sometimes that comes in testing specifications, but it's all about functionality, or mainly about functionality rather than performance. Looking forward, then the two new industry buzzwords are SDN, software-defined networks, and NFV, network function virtualization. Now, both of those means that you're moving from a fixed network, in the sense that you've got nodes which you configure and connect in a fixed way, to a much more dynamic environment. And that's a real challenge, because you can't really write nodal specifications anymore, because the concept of a node actually largely disappears as a physical entity. You've got a set of functionality which can be distributed. Now, in order to make that work, then that brings in challenges with regard to dynamic behaviour, interoperation between frequently equipment from different vendors, etc., etc. So it's actually a fundamentally new way of running a network, and it's a real challenge for the industry. It's a challenge for the Broadband Forum, because although in architectural terms it's relatively easy to actually understand this, when you really get down to what you need to specify, and particularly both the real time and the interoperation aspects of this, it's really very, very challenging. So I think that's, it's exciting. In some ways I think it's a bit scary, but I think that's the future direction.
Well, I'm sure we'll get through it, but in the meantime, congratulations and thanks for talking to us.